How are you going connecting with God in the chaos? On Sunday, Cam was talking to us about the challenges of staying connected with God in the midst of the craziness of life. As we come to our midweek check-in, I've been pondering what he was talking about and looking at ways in which I can apply that practically in my life. The first thought I want to share with you today is that we need to have God in our face on a daily basis. As a school teacher, I had a young guy in one of my classes who didn't have a very clear sense of personal space at all. He was always quite literally in my face, up close and personal, asking me intense questions or looking me in the eye. I can look back now and it was quite amusing, but at the time it was enormously confronting. But I could always be sure that he was present in my classes. I knew he was there and he was engaging with me. Now, I'm not suggesting that we can or should be as intense as he was, but there are so many other things that are in our face. Every day we're bombarded by news reports, social media, email, texts, demands for attention. And we need to make some conscious choices about who or what we want to be in our face. Even as I sat down to prepare for this chat today, I opened up my Bible and the first thing that fell out was a bookmark that I was given when I did a course at LL Ministries a few years ago. And as I read the words on the bookmark, they say, "But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." And that's from Isaiah 40, verse 31. In that moment, a simple thing such as a bookmark that I'd forgotten honestly was in my Bible fell out and put God in my face. It drew my attention to the reality and presence of God, reminded me of some of my favourite verses that speak to me, and encouraged me to reconnect with God even as I went to record this session. And it got me going back to the very passage that those words came from as I was thinking about this notion of having God in our face. And I want to look at those in a moment. But if we flip back to the Old Testament, to the beginning of the Bible, to the early instructions that Moses gave to his followers, we see that he said to the households and to the heads of the households that they need to keep God in their face by putting messages about God on their doorposts and lintels. So the doorposts, the side frames of the doors, the lintels that go across the top. The idea was that both adults and kids couldn't come in or out of the house without being reminded of the presence and reality of God. And so I want to invite you to think about what might that look like in your house, in your family. As I was growing up, several of my older relatives had nice photographs on the wall with Bible verses. I look back now and I have to say I thought they looked a bit tacky. I'm a photographer, so I love the photos, but I kind of felt the verses spoilt them in a way. But that was part of their way or their attempt to keep God front and centre in their thinking, in their daily life, and to remind them and to remind the members of their household of the importance of their relationship with God. As we turn to Isaiah chapter 40, we read these words from verse 25. Isaiah says, "To whom will you compare me," speaking on behalf of God, "or who is my equal, says the Holy One." And then verse 26 says, "Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He brings out the starry host one by one and calls them each by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing." And so the encouragement or the exhortation is to lift up our eyes and look. I don't know about you, but I suspect that your experience is similar to mine, that by the time you've watched the TV news or you've looked at it on your phone, scrolled through social media, you're not lifting up your eyes and looking. You're probably a bit downcast, depressed, discouraged, wondering what the world's coming to. Here we're told to lift up our eyes and look to the created order, to the stars in the sky. There's nothing better to do, I find, first thing in the morning than to catch a sunrise, or maybe if you're not an early riser, catch a sunset. But as we're reminded of the constancy of our lives, the ebb and flow, the predictability of our days at the natural level, it's reminded, Isaiah says, that God is faithful, that our Creator who made it holds it all together and sustains it. The very next verse, verse 27, goes on to say, "Why do you say, O Jacob, and complain, O Israel? My way is hidden from the Lord. My cause is disregarded by my God." Sometimes when we're bombarded with other things in our face, it's easy to think that God has forgotten us, that God doesn't care, that God's checked out. Isaiah says, "Look, lift up your eyes and look to the starry host. Not one of them is missing." And as we do, we're called to contemplate the vastness of the universe and the goodness of God. And so it goes on to say, "Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth." And then a verse that I've needed often this year, "He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men and women stumble and fall. But those who hope in and wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." You may not be able to sit in stillness or silence and solitude every day, as Cam was talking about on Sunday. The chaos of life might mean that you're scrabbling to just get through the day. The psalmist reminds us that we're to dwell in God's word. Isaiah reminds us that we're to dwell in God's presence by consciously looking to the creation around us to remind us that God is alive, real, and active in his world. How will you take steps to let God be in your face this week? Maybe it's something as simple as a bookmark you've forgotten about, or perhaps it's walking outside, catching a breath of fresh air, looking at the clouds, the stars, the sunrise, the sunset, and remembering who made them. Have a great week. Look forward to catching up with you on Sunday as we celebrate Father's Day.